Today, I'm super excited to learn why it is better to unquestioningly believe things without evidence than it is for me to only believe things I have evidence for. If you haven't heard about the Prager University, I am so sorry that I have just ruined your perfectly good life by introducing them to you. Prager University is a conservative propaganda nonprofit. They talk about things like politics, finances, and yes, of course, religion. So they are fiercely pro-conservative, pro-capitalism, and pro-garbage. They are not an academic institute, even though you'd assume they are based on their name, Prager University. It's just a guy named Prager and people who work for him spouting out some quite stupid stuff and putting it all over the internet. So this is a response to one of those things.
Is it rational to believe in God? Many people think that faith and reason are opposites, that belief in God and tough-minded logical reasoning are like oil and water. They are wrong. Belief in God is far more rational than atheism.
Now we've heard the thesis of the video, it is more rational to believe things without evidence. Before we move on, I do need to concede that not all atheists are rational. Not all atheists came to their conclusion about the proposition of God using reason or skepticism or any thought at all. There are some incredibly stupid and bigoted and unpleasant atheists out there. So maybe this video is about those atheists. If you squint your eyes and pretend it's just about the stupid atheists, it almost makes sense.
Logic can show that there is a God. If you look at the universe with common sense and an open mind, you'll find that it's full of God's fingerprints.
You can't just logic your way to any rational conclusion. You have to base your logic on evidence. Because without some foundation in evidence, without interpreting some kind of evidence, there aren't any boundaries on where our logic can take us. I mean, this is basically the problem of garbage in, garbage out. A computer that's been given faulty inputs isn't any less logical than a computer that's been given good inputs. It does exactly the same logic. The quality of the inputs is essential to the quality of your outputs. And that quality is governed by what we have evidence for. Declaring that the universe is evidence for God isn't evidence. The universe can only be evidence for itself unless you've got some way of comparing what a universe with a God would look like compared to a universe without a God, and then using that comparison to see which category our universe qualifies under, and we don't have that.
A good place to start is with an argument by Thomas Aquinas, the great 13th century philosopher and theologian. The argument starts with the not very startling observation that things move.
This is not, in fact, a good place to start.
But nothing moves for no reason. Something must cause that movement. And whatever caused that must be caused by something else, and so on. But this causal chain cannot go backwards forever.
I hear that all the time, and nobody's really been able to explain why. Why can't there be an infinite regress? There's no logical reason not to go back infinitely in a causal chain. Worse than that, saying that some eternal God started everything at some finite point in time is just a different form of regression, because now the eternal God is your infinite regress. Why can we invoke an eternal God as a response to claiming that an eternal universe isn't reasonable? What makes an eternal God reasonable and an eternal universe unreasonable? And if eternality isn't reasonable in one case, but is reasonable in the other, how is that not special pleading?
It must have a beginning. There must be an unmoved mover to begin all the motion in the universe.
Because things cannot move without something to move them, there must exist something which moves without something to move it. This makes sense grammatically, but not rationally. You'll find that this is true for most religious truisms.
A first domino to start the whole chain moving. since mere matter never moves itself.
He says mere matter because what he's really pushing is an immaterial God. But an immaterial God is even more stupid than a lot of other possible God concepts because immaterial things cannot act upon material things. If immaterial things could act upon material things, they would be detectable. So even though we couldn't directly observe them, but we would still see their action in the universe, like, gravity. Gravity isn't something that we can detect directly, but because it affects every damn thing, we sure as hell know it exists. The fact that the universe proceeds as if the laws of physics are inviolate strongly suggests that there isn't something in the universe violating the laws of physics and immaterially acting on material things.
A modern objection to this argument is that some movements in quantum mechanics, radioactive decay, for example, have no discernible cause.
Not just radioactive decay, but that is definitely one of my favorite examples. Phenomena like radioactive decay completely demolish cosmological arguments, which is why PragerU would like to discredit it.
But hang on a second. Just because scientists don't see a cause doesn't mean there isn't one. It just means science hasn't found it yet.
It's true that it doesn't mean it's uncaused, but it also doesn't mean it's caused. For now, we have to accept that radioactive decay violates your claim that everything must have a cause. That means you cannot safely make that claim until we have nailed down radioactive decay. We might actually get there faster if PragerU spent their resources on supporting science instead of supporting misinformation.
Maybe someday they will. But then there will have to be a new cause to explain that one.
If finding the cause for radioactive decay puts us at risk for infinite regress, do you suggest that your immaterial God is responsible for every time an alpha particle jumps out? Are the victims of Hiroshima aware of the miracles that have been visited upon their city by your God? Or are you contradicting yourself and saying that in this case you're okay with infinite regress? Either way, it feels a little bit silly to say we live in a universe where everything must have a cause when we do not have evidence that everything in the universe has a cause. Even if there were a God, the cosmological argument couldn't actually get us there because we cannot accept one of its premises.
And so on and so on. But science will never find the first cause.
Because there's no such thing?
That's no knock on science. It simply means that a first cause lies outside the realm of science.
Lies outside the realm of science is an awful lot of words for when you could just say, doesn't exist.
Another way to explain this argument is that everything that begins must have a cause. Nothing can come from nothing.
Okay, but radioactive decay is still a problem for that premise. You're making a broad claim about the properties of our universe while pointedly ignoring some pretty glaring counterexamples.
So if there's no first cause, there can't be second causes, or anything at all.
The universe can be a brute fact, a necessary fact. Just like you insist that your God must be a brute fact. The only difference is that we have evidence that our universe exists.
In other words, if there's no creator, there can't be a universe.
If the creator can have existed forever, then the universe can have existed forever. To insist that one can have done it and the other cannot have done it is to engage in the special pleading fallacy, especially if you don't have any evidence.
But what if the universe were infinitely old, you might ask? Well, all scientists today agree that the universe is not infinitely old, that it had a beginning in the Big Bang.
A majority of scientists wish that the general public understood that the Big Bang Cosmology represents our understanding of how the current phase of our universe got started, not how the entirety of our universe got started. The Big Bang is the expansion of time and space from a hot, dense state to the current state of affairs. And also, technically, into the future as even more diffuse than they are now. At no point do cosmologists suggest that there was nothing, and thus the Big Bang can't represent the appearance of our universe from nothing.
If the universe had a beginning, then it didn't have to exist. And things which don't have to exist must have a cause.
Even allowing that your assertion is true, we've already gone over how we cannot accept a claim that the Big Bang represents the beginning of our universe. If the Big Bang is not the beginning of our universe, the universe may be a brute fact. If the universe is a brute fact, there is no God required.
There's confirmation of this argument from Big Bang Cosmology. We now know that all matter, that is, the whole universe, came into existence some 13.7 billion years ago, and it's been expanding and cooling ever since.
We know that the Big Bang occurred about 13.8 billion years ago. We do not know that the Big Bang is the beginning of the universe. The universe may have existed in another form in time-space prior to the Big Bang.
No scientist doubts that anymore, even though, before it was scientifically proved, atheists called it creationism in disguise.
Both theists and atheists were initially uncomfortable with the Big Bang because it does violate a lot of the assumptions of Newtonian physics, and Newtonian physics was how we understood the universe at that time. There are still 31 million Christians in the United States alone who believe that the Big Bang is an atheist conspiracy to discredit their God. We call these Christians young Earth creationists. Whether atheists or Christians love or hate an idea has nothing to do with whether or not that idea is true.
Now, add to this premise a very logical second premise, the principle of causality, that nothing begins without an adequate cause.
How is this not simply a restatement of your first premise? I think you just jiggled the words around because you think that your idea will seem more rational if you try to put more premises in front of it. I don't see how this is helpful. If nothing begins without a cause, then radioactivity doesn't begin without a cause. Radioactivity cannot be shown to have a cause. Therefore, we cannot accept your premise that nothing begins without a cause. Also, there's no principle of causality in physics. You're importing ideas from philosophy to try to plug holes in your cosmology.
And you get the conclusion that since there was a Big Bang, there must be a Big Banger.
It's time to help you understand the difference between a boomer and Gen X. We're both getting gray and wrinkly, but Gen X cannot say there must have been a Big Banger and maintain a straight face. Okay, boomer, tell us about your Big Banger. Will there be a per minute charge? Can you make your voice a little sexier so it's worth it?
But is this Big Banger God? Why couldn't it be just another universe?
So you worship your Big Banger? How big is your Big Banger? Is your Big Banger the biggest banger, or is there a bigfinite regress? Are there any unbanged bangers? When people say, that song's a banger, do they mean that the singer created the universe? Or did God bang the singer? Do you think the singer yelled God's name when God banged them?
Because Einstein's general theory of relativity says that all time is relative to matter. And since all matter began 13.7 billion years ago, so did all time. So there's no time before the Big Bang.
Einstein's theory of relativity says that time is relative to space. There was no matter at the moment of the Big Bang. Within fractions of a second after the Big Bang, there would have been quarks and gluons. Actual nucleosynthesis, the formation of atomic nuclei, may have taken as long as 20 minutes. While our current presentation of time-space begins with the Big Bang, we have no way to know whether there would have been another presentation of time-space prior to the Big Bang.
And even if there is time before the Big Bang, even if there is a multiverse, that is, many universes with many Big Bangs, as string theory says is mathematically possible, that too must have a beginning.
Now we're drifting even further from what anyone has any basis for claiming. What is your evidence that the multiverse must have had a beginning? Why would we allow your God to be the brute fact of a multiverse, but not allow the multiverse to be the brute fact of a multiverse? How is this not just another iteration of the very same special pleading we're already familiar with? Did someone big banger your noggin and scramble your big brainer?
An absolute beginning is what most people mean by God.
Dear absolute beginner who art in heaven, please bless me so that I may never have to do another PragerU response. Those boomers are so lost, I sometimes wonder if they've been up all night banging each other. In the name of the Dad Absolute Beginning, the Son Absolute Beginning, and the Holy Spirit of Absolute Beginnings, who is probably David Bowie. Amen.
Yet some atheists find the existence of an infinite number of other universes more rational than the existence of a creator. Never mind that there is no empirical evidence at all that any of these unknown universes exists.
Cool. Are you saying you have empirical evidence that your God exists? Because we've been watching your video for a while and all you've offered are assertions and fallacies. We know that at least one universe exists. It's actually more reasonable to believe there are multiples of something that we know at least one of exists than to believe that there's one of something we don't know exists at all.
Let alone 1,000 or a gazillion. The conclusion that God exists doesn't require faith. Atheism requires faith.
That's quite the non sequitur you've got there. Be a shame if someone demanded evidence. As I've already said, it is more reasonable to believe that some number of something we know exists than it is to believe that one of something exists that we don't have any evidence for. For instance, if I've only ever known one horse, it's actually reasonable for me to assume that there might be other horses somewhere else. But if I've never seen a donkey, I actually don't have any reason to believe that there is a donkey. Maybe I can get past your mental block by avoiding the use of the word God.
It takes faith to believe in everything coming from nothing. It takes only reason to believe in everything coming from God.
It takes stupidity to believe that the Big Bang says everything came from nothing. It takes confident stupidity to believe that everything came from God.
I'm Peter Kraft, professor of philosophy at Boston College for Prager University.
Join Prager University.
I do not believe that I will be joining Prager University. It's really kind of sad that cosmological arguments remain the best arguments for a God, especially since most cosmological arguments don't even get us to a God. The cosmological arguments are a family of arguments that are literally older than Christianity. Can you believe that the best argument for Christianity actually antedates Christianity by a few centuries? That must be keenly embarrassing for the boomers, or should I say bangers, over at PragerU. I've been the out-of-body atheist, and I hope you all meet your big banger. Like and subscribe on your way out. Old MacDonald clicked on like, E-I-E-I-O. After he clicked, he hit subscribe, E-I-E-I-O. With an awesome here and an excellent there. Here a smart, there a good, everywhere superlative. Old MacDonald clicked on like, E-I-E-I-O.